In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys some recommendations for you all if you can't wait for the Fujifilm X100vi. And stick around till the end, and I'm going to share with you what I would personally go for if I didn't have the X100vi. Let's go. Now we have to talk about what makes the Fujifilm X100vi and the X100 series in general so great. One of the characteristics that makes this camera so great is that it's small, easy to stow away, it's a compact camera, and overall, it's a great looking camera. Now I want to share with you guys a few cameras that I've used in the past before that fits this mold. However, these cameras won't have the same bells and whistles as the Fujifilm X100vi, but it will provide you with essentially the same image quality, same colors, and etc. Starting with the Fujifilm X-T5. Now, I recommend this camera because it has the 40 megapixel sensor, just like the X100vi. It's the one out of the two in this list that with the 40 megapixel sensor that I will recommend. The others will be the 26 megapixel. And that's fine too. You honestly don't need the 40 megapixel sensor. The Fujifilm X-T5 will have the same processor as the X100vi. The X-T5 also has the IBIS, the dual memory cards, and is weather sealed right out the box. The beauty about the cameras that I'm going to recommend is it's also an interchangeable lens mount. This means that it's more versatile if you ever decide to shoot with a different focal length. The X-T5 is a bit bigger than the X100vi, but still feels small when we compare it to full-frame cameras out there. I travel with the X-T5, it's light, and you will have a great shooting experience with the X-T5. We also have the Fujifilm X-T50, which is tinier than the X-T5, and I already think the X-T5 isn't that big to begin with. If the X-T50 is anything like the X-T30, then it's going to be a tiny camera. And this is the second camera that I will recommend because it also has that 40 megapixel sensor. It's also tiny and it also has the image stabilization like the X100vi. But the X-T50 could be the camera to get your hands on if you want something that is smaller and that has the ability to change lenses. Speaking of lenses, let's get into some for a moment. There are two schools of thoughts when it comes to lenses. One, there are people who want the exact same focal length that is on the X100vi, and two, there are people who want to keep it as compact and as small as possible, so they're going to opt for a pancake lens instead, which isn't going to be the same focal length as the 23mm f2 that you find in the X100vi. This is going to be a 27mm pancake lens, which is a 40mm full frame equivalent. So for the first one, I'm going to assume that you guys want to shoot on the same focal length, which is the 23mm. We have several options, but I'm going to go into that later. The first one I want to talk about is the XF 23mm f2. The X100vi is also an f2 lens, and this XF 23mm is also an f2. I think this lens is a great lens to have as your everyday walk-around lens. It's small, it's stealthy, it has weather sealing, and it has linear motors for acquiring a quick and snappy autofocus. Pair this on any 26 megapixel sensor camera and you're going to get a sharp looking image. On the 40 megapixel sensor, however, I find this is where the lens does run into softness issues. Now this could be a copy of my lens, but what I've discovered is this lens doesn't perform as well on the 40 megapixel sensor at f2. However, the images does get better once you stop it down anywhere from f5.6 to f8. But I feel the image doesn't get sharp. I feel this lens isn't utilizing the 40 megapixel sensor. But I have to reassure you that this lens performs very well on any 26 megapixel sensor cameras out there. Speaking of 26 megapixel sensor cameras, the third camera that I would recommend that will give you a similar image quality is the Fujifilm X-S20. You guys know how much I rave about the Fujifilm X-S10 and what kind of images that it produced. The X-S20 is a more refined version of the X-S10 because of the latest updated processor inside. This is the same processor that is found in the X100vi. I'm just going to highlight some things that makes the X-S20 different from the X100vi. First, it's its battery. It has the updated battery, and I think this battery is great. Second is that the X-S20 has 6.2K open gate. Now, if you're someone that is leaning towards more video than photo, this would be a better option for you. It is also small and compact, but not as small as the X100vi, of course. However, I do like the way the X-S20 feels right out the box because of that grip. If you want to make the X100vi feel better to hold in your hands, you're going to have to buy additional accessories such as hand grip and thumb grip, which is coming in at an additional cost. Pair the X-S20 up with the XF 23mm f2 and you're going to essentially get similar performances as the Fujifilm X100vi. Images are going to look very similar. And since the X-S20 isn't a fixed focal length camera like the X100vi, you are able to change lenses down in the future if you ever get bored of the 23mm lens. So another lens you should look into for your 40 megapixel interchangeable cameras is whether it's the X-T5 or X-T50, is I would recommend the XF23mm f1.4 WR-LM. This is going to take advantage of that 40 megapixel sensor. You're going to get crisp and sharp looking images with this lens. And with the linear motors, you're also going to have quick and snappy autofocus. And this is something that is missing in the X100VI. The X100VI is a bit slower to focus than the XF23mm f2 lens. When I use autofocusing on the X100VI, it is a little bit slower than any of these lenses that I mentioned. If you're on a budget and you can't afford the f1.4 LM lens, I recommend you guys looking into the Sigma 23mm f1.4 for the X mount version, or the Viltrox 23mm f1.4. Both can produce beautiful images. Now, the second school of thoughts for lenses are compact pancake lenses, which the X100VI has. Now, the pancake lens options for the interchangeable system doesn't come in the 23mm focal length. So you're going to change the entire look of your images. Now, if you decide to go the pancake lens options, just remember that it's going to be at a 27mm focal length and not the 23. There are some options. Obviously, you got the Fujifilm XF27mm f2.8. Now, I've never used this lens before, but people really love this lens. So if you want a pancake lens and you want to keep it in the Fujifilm family, this lens is the one that is available. Now, I recommend you do more research on this lens because I don't have much knowledge on this lens. I never used it before. I've heard it's good. I've heard it, and I also heard that it's also hard to find. So that could be an indicator to tell you how popular this lens is. However, this is a lens that I have tried and I really enjoy. And that is the TT Artisan's 27mm f2.8. I thought this lens was a joy to use. I was delighted by the shooting experience. It's TT Artisan's first autofocusing lens, and it was a great introduction. The images that I got, I was quite satisfied with. Loads of character, and it was around $100, so it was quite affordable. Honestly, for $100, you can't go wrong with that lens. All right, guys. So if I were to start all over again and knowing all the information that I know now, and if I cannot wait for the Fujifilm X100VI, what camera and lens would I go for? Honestly, it would be the Fujifilm X-S20 and the XF23mm f1.4 WR-LM. Give me that 26 megapixel sensor because it still takes amazing images, and give me the latest processor so that the AF is a bit more reliable. And pair that with the f1.4 lens, and I'm Gucci, man. I would be more than happy with this combo. I like the 23mm f1.4 because I like background blur, I like bokeh, I like the light gathering capabilities, and I also like sharp images. And this lens is one of the sharpest lenses in the Fujifilm lens lineup. And like I said in previous videos before, I don't need the 40 megapixel sensor. Cropping into your photo with more detail is cool, but I don't really need it. And it takes up more space on your memory card and more storage on your hard drive. So that could be more money wasted on buying more storage. And I like how the XS20 feels in my hand. And in my opinion, it's still small enough to be a travel companion. And I haven't even talked about the video spec yet. Give me open gate over 6.2K 16:9 that is found on the X-T5, the X-T50, and the X100VI. Any day, just give me open gate over any of those. My God, it's amazing. And I forgot the battery. Oh my God, the battery. The battery is so much better on the XS20. Alrighty, folks, there you have it. I hope this video provided you with some insights on what to get if you can't wait for a Fujifilm X100VI. I provided you with a few cameras that has similar features to the X100VI, whether it's the 40 megapixel sensor or the latest processor. You have several options to choose from. I also provided you with some lenses as well, so it's up to you to decide which camera and lens to go for. I highly recommend you do more research and get a difference in opinion. And if you're interested in any gear mentioned in this video, I'll leave the links for you guys to check out. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Fujifilm content. And thanks so much.